Okay, we can start now. We are live.
Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. I believe we can hear me. If you are live, I believe you can hear me. So today's training or today's section, we are going to talk about the concept of business models, right? The conceptual business models, right? And yesterday we covered the concept of data analytics, right? We explained what data analytics is all about. We said that data analytics is a scope or a field that covers both the tools, the technical tools, the approaches, the methods of analyzing data in order to uncover insights that will be used to solve business problems, right? And we also went further to talk about how we can, what data is. We said that data is a collection of information, how we can source data and how we can also collect data, right? We talked about both the soft and technical skills that a data analyst should have. We also covered the application of data analytics, and we said that data analytics cuts across um, diverse or various industries, be it healthcare, be it retail, be it education, be it sports. Data analytics cuts across these industries, right? And we also covered the importance of data analytics. And we say that is important because business owners or managers or CEOs depend on data analysis, for decision makings, right? To make decisions, because with data analytics, their decisions will be based on facts and not based on not based on assumptions, right? We also covered types of analysis. We say that we have the exploratory analysis, the descriptive analysis. Exploratory analysis is where you get to know what you have, what your data set is all about. You get to know how many columns that you have, how many records, or how many columns or how many rows that you have, right? So we said that we also have descriptive analysis. We say that descriptive analysis is where you get to find out what is happening in your data, right? You want to find out how many products a business sold, right? You just want to find out what is happening based on the data collected, right? So we also covered diagnostic analytics, right? And we said that is a type of analysis that that you get to find out the reason why something happened, right? So we have exploratory, descriptive, diagnostic, predictive analysis, and prescriptive. So predictive is where you forecast, right? Where you forecast or where you predict what may likely happen in future. And we said that you use different you use historic data to predict, right? To predict the future, right? So after prediction, we have prescriptive. Prescriptive analysis is actually a type of analysis where you recommend, right? Remember, we said that the end product of analysis is what? Problem solving, right? You get to solve problems, right? So you get to prescribe what or recommend to your stakeholder or your manager, right? What they can do, right, in order to solve this problem, right? So I know that we are all aware of the advanced training. So what we did yesterday is just to introduce to us what data analytics is all about, right? So these types of analysis, the exploratory, descriptive, diagnostic, and the rest, right? So we just introduced this concept to you, right? So in our advanced training, we are going to go in depth, right? We are going to learn the different methods, the different approaches that we can use to do this analysis, right? So when it comes to descriptive analysis, we use aggregate functions, right, or aggregate method to analyze to perform descriptive analysis. So in our advanced training, right, we are going to show you methods and strategies how you can get these things done, right? So yesterday we also talked about the processes of analysis. So we said that data analysis is a step-by-step process of what? Of collecting data, cleaning the data, analyzing the data in order to what? In order to uncover insight. So there is a process. If you want to analyze your data, right? If you want to analyze your data, there are processes that you need to take. There are processes that you need to follow, right? And we say that we have 6 processes or 6 stages, right? If you're analyzing your data, and we say that number 1 is the ask stage. So this stage is where you get to define your problem, define your objective, right? So it's a stage where you get to know what is expected of you, right? Because you are not just analyzing, or you don't just want to start analyzing. You want to have an aim. You want to be specific with what you are doing, right? So after the ask stage, we have the prepare stage. And we say that the prepare stage is where you get to source your data. Remember, we have our data. I talked about database and data set, right? So an organization has a database. A database stores all is a collection of all the organization's data, right? So if you are performing analysis, you don't necessarily need to use all the whole data in the database to perform analysis. So you get to extract data, right? You get to extract data from the database, right? So that is where stage 2 comes in. If you have defined your problem and your objectives, right? So the next thing you ask yourself, what type of data or which data will be adequate to answer this problem, right? So you go to their database and extract this data set, right? So you are analyzing what? Data set. You are analyzing a data set and not a database, right? And so after the prepare stage, after you must have gotten your data set for the analysis ready, so the next thing that you do is what? Is to clean your data, which will bring us to the 3rd stage, that is the prepare stage. So you prepare your data. How do you prepare your data? You prepare your data by cleaning your data, right? So you clean data. Yes, your data can be dirty. You can have inconsistencies. You can have duplicate values. You can have, empty cells or blank rows, right? So you get to clean them and put them in order, get them ready for analysis. Because if you don't do this, your end product will be biased. You will not going to have an accurate findings, right? So your findings and your insights will not be accurate, right? So that's why we say cleaning or data processing is very important, right? So after you must have cleaned your data, or after you must have processed your data, the next thing you do is to what? Is to analyze your data. And we said that analysis is all about what? Performing calculations. It's all about basically answering your business, your analysis questions. That is what we call analysis questions. Analysis question is gotten from your objectives, right? So obviously we cannot cover all of this within 3 days, right? So in our advanced training, we're also going to walk you through on how you can frame your objectives, how you can, also frame your analysis questions, right? So you start answering your analysis questions, right? So that is what we do basically, what we basically do in the analyze stage, right? So in the analyze stage, we answer analysis question using what? Using different methods like the aggregate method, regression and the rest, right? So we are going to go in depth on that in our advanced training, right? So after you must have analyzed your data, so the next thing is what? Is to visualize your data, that right? So visualization comes after visualizing your data. So it's actually a process of, is a pictorial way of showcasing your findings, right? So you convert your table into pictorial views like charts, slicers and the rest, right? So after visualization, what do you do next? So the last stage, which is the sixth stage, is what you get to share. You get to share your findings. You get to communicate it to your stakeholders or to your boss. If it's a gig that you've gotten, right, you report it. You report it. There are different ways you report your findings, right? So in our advanced class, we're also going to walk you through on that report presentation, right, or analysis presentation, right? So yesterday, you will agree with me, yesterday was actually an interesting one, and I strongly believe that we got value, right? So today we are going to be talking about conceptual business models, right? So this section is actually important, right? Is actually important for a data analyst to understand, right? Because most of us started our analysis journey by just learning the technical skills, right? Remember, I told us we have the background stage and the technical stage, right? Or the soft skill and the technical skills, right? So it's important, if you are learning the technical skills, you should also know the fundamentals of data analytics, the theory, right? The theoretical aspect of data analytics is very important, right? So conceptual business model is simply a diagram, right? Just as you can see on my screen, is a diagram that represents, right? It's a diagram that represents how an organization or how an industry functions, right? So even if you are starting a business, right? If you are starting a business, you should know your conceptual business model. You should know your elements, what you need to put in place, right? So as a data analyst, the business or the organization that you are working into to manage their data, you should know about these elements, right? Because if you are performing the analysis, you are not just performing a particular element. You are going to work on different elements, and these elements are kind of related. So you should know what is going on in the business, right? You should know what is going on in the business for you to be able to what? To do a quality analysis, right? So conceptual business model shows, the key elements in the business, right? Key elements like your customers, right? Your products that your product and services, right? Your staff, right? Your expenses, things like that. So from the pictorial view here, you can see that this is a healthcare conceptual business model, right? So we have the patient, we have the medical team, who is the staff, we have pharmacy, we have insurance company, right? So you can see the relationship between these elements, right? So there is a relationship, there is an interaction between patients and insurance companies, right? And there is a relationship between the medical team and the store, the pharmacy, right? So as a data analyst, it's important for you to know this. If you are going into healthcare, you should know what is happening in the healthcare space, the back end. You should know what is happening, right? If you are in, if you want to, pivot or transition into finance, you should know what is happening in the back end. You should know what is going on, right? So let's quickly talk about this element. But before then, let's briefly talk about the importance of conceptual business model, right? So number one is to understand your business. Understand the business that you will be managing their data, right? Because our data, we said yesterday that data can be gotten through what? Day-to-day business activities, right? So for you to generate your data, or for you to store your data, right, or for you to create a system that stores data, you should be able to understand the business, understand the different elements that comprises of the business, right? So it's important for you to understand what conceptual business model, right? So another importance is what is for you to understand the right question to ask, right? Remember we talked about the ask stage, and we also talked about one of the soft skills that a data analyst should have is what? Critical thinking and curiosity, right? So you get to ask question whatever you see happening, right? Probably a rise in something, right? You know that this thing is coming from this end, so you query it, you ask questions, right? So it's important, right, to know this so that you will be able to ask right questions, right? So another one is to understand what the result of your analysis actually means, right? So when you find that, when you discover an insight, do you know what it actually means for that business, right? So what does that finding, what does it mean to the business? Because they're not interested with numbers, right? They're not interested with numbers. What they're interested is what, how, how your findings can impact their business, how your findings can move their business from point A to point Z, right? So it's important to understand conceptual business models, right? So let's talk about elements of business models, right? So there are different components, there are different elements, right, of business models, right? So number one element of business model is what? The customer segment. Every business, every organization, right, has customers, right? They have their customer segments, right? They have who they are serving, because the essence of business is what? Is to make profit. And for you to make profit, you must serve something. You be it product, you must sell product, or you must offer services, right? So you now ask yourself, who am I serving? Right. So when you understand who you are serving, or who you are rendering your services to, or your product, who you are selling your products to, right? So you should know how you approach them. You should know how you target them. You should know how the kind of product um, that you push out there for them, right? So number one is what? Customer segment, right? So for healthcare is what? Patient, right? For healthcare is what? Is patient. So we have the value preposition. So every business or every organization, they have a value that they offer, right? So it could be services, it could be products, right? So what value are you offering them? So for a retail business, it could be different products. If it's an electronic business, it could be laptop, it could be charger, right? So these called what? Your value preposition, right? So let's move forward. So we have channels. We have channels. So channels is how you deliver your services. How you deliver your services. So for a retail business, you see that some retail business, their services is kind of on site, right? So you walk in and buy your products, right? So a business can also decide to, deliver their services through online, right? So you reach them via their WhatsApp number or via their website, right? So when you reach them, you get their services or their products, right? So for a data analyst, you'll be kind of asking, okay, we generated let's say 3 million in last month, right? Our revenue for the last month was 3 million, right? So you are curious, how did we if you want to break it down, you want to know, okay, we have different channels. So which channel generated the most, right? So that's a question, that's an analysis question. You want to know which channel generated the most revenue or the highest revenue, right? So when you analyze when you try to answer that question, you find out that, oh, online generated 1.8, right? Online generated 1.8, and on-site generated 1.2. So you can tell that, oh, your most customers prefer shopping what online. You see that you are trying to understand the business. You are querying the business, you are answering the right questions, right? Because you know the different elements of that business, right? So the next one is the revenue streams, right? So this is where the different ways money comes in, right? Comes into the business. So the next one is what? Customer relationship. Very important. Customer relationship, how you engage with your customers, right? What your customers are saying. Are they complaining? Are they satisfied? So you want to analyze their satisfaction rate. You want to analyze their retention rate. Okay, this customer that came to shop from us, did he return? How were you able to know that if he returned? It's actually through the data. Oh, Peter came on Tuesday to buy something. It was captured that Peter came on Tuesday to buy something, right? On Friday, Peter came again. That's retention. The customer repeated again. The customer came again. So you can track our customers. Are we able to retain our customers? So if you, after analyzing and you find out that the retention rate is high, right? You see that, oh, we must be doing something good that is making our customers to come back. Maybe we should improve that. Maybe we should, keep doing that. Or if you find out that your retention rate is low, right? You can, adjust. You see how you are solving that problem. You can adjust, right? So we have what? Customer relationship, very important. So we have key resources who you need to use to deliver your care. So these are your staff, right? These are your sales representatives. These are your medical doctors and the rest of them, right? So you want to find out, oh, so for John, our sales rep, right, generated so amount, you have, let's say, 5 sales representatives, right? So you want to compare them. You want to know how much each of them generated for the last quarter or for last month, right? So you see that you know that something like this exists, right? So when you know that there is something like your key resources, right? You should be able to ask questions, right? You should be able to query that particular element, right? So we have key activities. Key activities, what you must do to operate. What you must do to operate, right? So we have key partners and we have cost structures, right? So all of these elements are kind of related. You can see that revenue all literally relates to most of the elements. Revenue streams, right, relates to channel. You want to know the performance, the revenue performance across channel. You see the relationship between that. You want to find out the revenue performance across staff, right, across your key resources. You want to find out the revenue across you know yeah, across channels, across region, right? If you have departments, you want to find out revenue across what? Across departments, right? So elements or business models, they are important. When you are onboarded in any organization, right, you sit down and ask, right, what is involved in this business? What is going on in the back end? Because when you are handed over the database, you are in charge to make meaning of that data, right? So it's important to know what conceptual business model means, right? So let's move forward. So let's talk about value chain processes, right? Before analysis. Value chain processes before analysis. So I want to talk about what happens before analysis. What happens before analysis? Most of us, we just jump into analysis, not knowing that there is some things have already happened, right? There are something that have already happened in the back end that you don't even know, right? But because you are a tool user. A tool user is someone that just knows how to operate Excel. you know how to operate Excel, but you don't know how you can use it to solve real life problem. You don't know how you can use Excel to, to solve real life problem, right? So as a beginner or as an entry level data analyst, don't just be a tool or technical tool user, right? Don't just be a tech tool user, right? Be a data analyst that is impactful, be a data analyst that solves real life problems, be a data analyst that drives impact, right? Using what? Using data and using your technical skills, right? So value chain simply means a full range of activities, right? A range of activities businesses go through, right, in order to create products or services and deliver it to what? To their customers. We talked about elements of business, right? So, and we say that elements of business are key components of what? Of a business. Now, we are talking about the value chain. What happens in this business, right? So, number one thing that happens in a business is what? Is real world events. Real world event, the operation, something happens. There is an operation on Monday, we come to work, something happens, right? On Tuesday, we come to work, something happens. And these activities or these events that happened, they are recorded, right? Oh, a bakery business, right? Oh, we bake on Monday, we baked um let's say 25 pieces of meat pie. These are real world events, right? Real world events. On Monday we baked 25 pieces of meat pie. We sold all of them, right? We generated so amount. So these are activities and they are being what? Captured, right? So everything starts with what? With business activities, right? Everything starts with what? With business activities. And the goal is the ability to take action in the marketplace, right? So the goal is to take action using data, right, in the marketplace. So whatever you discover, whatever insight or whatever finding you discover, you feed it back, you put it back in what? You put it back in the marketplace so that the market will what? The business or the market will what? Will grow. There will be an increase, right? So number one of the value chain that happens or that goes through in a business is what? Real world events, real world events. So number two is what? System data capture. So these are systems that captures the activities that happen, right? So for any of these activities that we talked about, for any of them to be useful, right, for an analyst or for a business owner, right? So these activities, these events, they need to be captured. Oh, we sold 25 pieces of meat pie on Monday. It needs to be captured. Oh, John, our sales rep closed this deal, 25 million naira deal. It needs to be captured, right? Kate, our sales representative, right, sold a particular product on Tuesday, so particular quantity of product on Tuesday. It should be captured, right? And there are systems, right? And it's actually systems that capture these activities, right? So it's until you capture them that it will be useful for data analysis. Obviously, you cannot analyze without data, right? And how do you get your data? You get your data by capturing what? Real world events, right? So before you start analyzing, just know that this information, these numbers that you have in your system, in your Excel, in your SQL, in your Python, just know that they are real life what? They are real life events. They are not just numbers. They are real life events, right? So the third one is what? Accessible location and storage. Remember we talked about database, right? So data come from what? From different source systems. Remember we have source systems. So when you capture your data using the source systems, right? What do you now do? You save them in your what? In your database, because most source systems, right? Most source systems, they don't store data. What they do is what? Is just to source them. So when you source them, you save them in your what? In your database, right? So when you create them, when you save them in your database, if you want to analyze your data, you now extract. That brings us to the fourth activities that happens in a business, right? That's data extraction for analysis. You now extract your data from the database. You extract it what? For analysis. So you don't need all the database. You just need a manageable data set. You just need a sample, right? Or you need enough data that will be able to answer your question, right? So let's move on. Let's move on. So we have types of data capture source systems. So we have different types of source systems, right? So as a data entry officer or a data analyst, it's important for us to know these things before you can dive into what technical knowledge. Background knowledge is important. So before technical knowledge, get the background knowledge first, right? So we have different source systems. Number one is what? The manual, right? Talking about the paper-based forms, right? For, patient records, just basically paper forms, right? So you manually enter your data in, when you enter your data or when you capture your data, probably with a receipt, right? So you now enter this information or this data you have captured, you enter it in a spreadsheet or in a database, right? So the next one, we have automated data capture systems. Automated data capture systems. So this data is collected with minimal what? Human intervention, right? So you can agree with me, if you go to supermarket, they can tell how many products that they sold for a day. So there is a system that is capturing it. They can tell you, they can quickly tell you that, oh, they generated so amount today. They don't need to start using calculator to, oh, let's bring our book and start calculating. No. So there is a barcode there. When they scan it, the amount, the everything, as you are generating your printout, it's saving in their back end. So at the end of the day, you will see the summary of their sales for today, for that day, right? So we have inventory tracking systems, we have point of sales, right, in different stores. So these are systems that captures data as the activity is going on, or as activities is going on, they just capture these real life activities or these real life events, right? So we have digital slash online data capture systems, right? So these systems capture data from websites, right? So we have digital platforms like web forms, right? I believe Google Forms and the rest of them, right? So they are digital capture systems. We have a lot of source systems. We have sensor-based systems, right? So these are Internet of Things. You can wearable systems, right? Wearable systems that can capture events, right? So we have the transactional systems. We have the HIS for hospital information systems. We have ATM. We have the ERP systems, right? So these systems are captures transactional systems, right? They capture business activities. They capture transactions that is going on in the business, right? So we have operational systems. We have, customer relationship management. Remember, customer relationship is also an element, right? So we want to capture what is happening or what's going on, right? So you have a system, a CRM system that captures your customers' complaints or your customer satisfaction. So this little information is important for you to know, right? So we have secondary sources, right? Secondary sources. Remember, we talked about secondary method of collecting data, right? So these are source systems that capture data from, organizations. These are secondary data that has already been captured and they are stored in the internet, right? Internet website like cargo.com. These are where you get real life data set, right? So let's move on. So let's talk about business KPIs, right? Business KPIs, key performance indicators, and metrics. Key performance indicators and metrics. Please give me a sec. Let me take some water. Okay, we are back. I hope you are getting value. I hope you are getting value. This section is live streamed. I feel I'm alone in the class, but I strongly believe that you are getting value of your time, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. So we are going to talk about KPIs and metrics, right? So as a data analyst, your job is not just to analyze data, right? Remember we talked about the importance of conceptual business models, right? So you need to find out what success looks like for your business. Oh, they generated 100 million in the last quarter, right? You need to understand what that means. You need to, further break it down and see what it means. Is it a success to them? Is it a plus to them or a minus to them? Right. So, and how do you understand, how success is looks or means to a business that you're working? So that is what we use to measure these things, right? So we use key performance indicators and metrics, right? We use metrics to track, right? To track performance, right? So metric is basically a general measurement, right? Is a general measurement. We're going to introduce it in our advanced training. We are going to see firsthand how you can get this done. Trust me, data analytics is an interesting career you would love to pivot or transition into. Very interesting career, right? So metrics is a general measurement you use to track or assess performance, right? So for a bakery business, you want to know how many products or how many cake that we baked today. Okay, we baked so amount and we sold so amount. You want to know how many units that we've sold, how many pieces of meat pie did we sell, right? So that is metrics. How much did we generate, right? How much profit did we make, right? So these are metric. So a metric is a general measurement. Is a general measurement. Is a general measurement that you can use to what? To track or to assess your performance. Oh, we generated 100 units of this. You assess this value, right? Or this measurement. You assess is 100 minutes. Does it mean a success? Does it mean a plus or does it mean a minus, right? So we have key performance indicator, right? We have the KPIs, key performance indicators, right? So this KPIs in essence is actually a specific metric, right? So metric is what is general, but KPI, the word key, the important ones, they are specific, the important ones, key performance what? Indicator. So they are specific metric that shows what? That shows progress towards a key business goal. Let's say, still using the bakery business, want to make We want to sell 100 pieces of meat pie today, right? So that's our business goal. That's our big business goal. We want to sell 100 pieces of meat pie, right? So at the end of the day, you have a goal to sell what? 100 pieces of meat pie. So at the end of the day, you want to now analyze your data. You now want to analyze and see your performance. That's your KPI. So you now say, okay, how many meat pie did we sell? You now compare it with what? With your objective or your target, because it's your target now. 100 is what is our target. You want to compare your actual is what you have sold, right? You want to compare it with your target, right? So after analyzing, you find out that, oh, we sold 80 pieces of meat pie. So you can see, you can compare your actual versus your target. That's your KPI. So you can see that we sold 80 versus 100. So you can tell, you can assess the performance. Oh, that's a close this thing progress. The margin is not that much, right? 80 against 100, we're almost close. So you can see how you can track your performance, your key performance indicators, right? So KPIs measures what matters. So you can see that what matters now is what, the number of what, the number of, or the how many pieces of meat pie we sold. That's what matters, right? So it says that every KPI is going to be a metrics, right? So every KPI is a metric, but not every metrics is what is KPI. Remember, metrics is what is general, but KPI are special metrics, right? They are special metric, right? So I strongly believe you understand the difference between KPIs and metrics, right? So if you're analyzing your data and you want to find out, you want to, track your KPIs, there's something that you should look out for when you want to track your KPI, right? So your KPI should be what? It should be smart. It should be specific, right? You need to be specific. What do you want? What target do you want to set? You need to be specific, right? So your KPI should be what? It should be measurable. It should be measurable. It should be achievable. Don't, your KPI should be achievable. Don't raise the bar so high, right? It should be achievable, it should be relevant, and it should be what? Time bound. Oh, by the end of Q1 or by the end of Q2 or by the end of 2027, we want to generate those amounts. So that's your target. And it has what? It has time bound, it has time frame, right? So with that, you should be able to measure your performance, right? So what does this say? So this is how to represent KPI on a dashboard, right? How to represent KPI on a dashboard. How to represent KPI on a dashboard, right? So KPIs, so this is actually the technical aspect of it, right? Which we are not going into tonight, right? We're not going into it tonight. However, let me just walk you through on how you can represent your KPI on a dashboard. By the way, a dashboard, right? A dashboard is a collection of your visuals. Remember, after analyzing, you convert your findings, right? You convert it to what? Visuals, right? So something like this. So these visuals, you bring them together. So a dashboard contains the key information of your analysis, your key visualizations, your important ones, because that dashboard, you are not expected to add all of your findings. You just pick key of your findings and just arrange them, right? So in our advanced training, we're also going to walk you through on how to build a dashboard, right? So dashboard is also a method of reporting your findings or a method of sharing your findings. I'm going to teach you how to build a dashboard, also going to teach you how to build a report. So the difference between dashboard and report is that dashboard is just few findings of your analysis. You put it together and present to your supervisor or to your manager or to your CEO, right? But for report is a standard, um, is a standard document, right? So you start from the beginning to tell us every detail of what you have done in your analysis, starting from the title of your analysis to the objective to your methodology. You know that project presentation, the way you did it, for those of us that have done that, right? You do it just every detail. You need to capture every detail from methodology to your findings, your analysis findings, to your your recommendation and conclusion. Every detail, you need to capture every detail, right? And we are going to walk you through on that, how you can use PowerPoint to put your reports together, right? So if you want to build your KPI on a dashboard, number one is what? You need to set a target. You need to set a target. You need to always define what success looks like, right? Remember, your KPI needs to be what? Needs to be specific. It needs to be measurable, right? It needs to be achievable. So you need to set your target, right? Example, you want to achieve at least 150 units of products sold, right? So there is no time bound here. So you need to put your time frame. By the end of this, we need to achieve this, right? So number two is what? Number two is what? You compare your actual. I talked about that. You compare your actual versus your target. We're also going to walk you through on how to calculate your actual, right? Because you even your target, probably let's say, oh, your manager say, oh, Kate, I want us to, for Q3, I want us to, kind of achieve 20% of this, right? 20% of this. That's our target, 20% of our last listing. So you should be able to calculate 20% or how many percent of that, right? So we are going to walk you through how to calculate actual target, right? So after comparing them, right, you show them what? You show them in what? In visuals, right? You present them in visualizations like bars, bar charts, gates, or color codes, right? So all these things are available in your analysis tools. They are available in Excel. They are available in Power BI. They are available in your literally all your analysis tools, right? So the last one is what? Is to add insight, right? So you should add an insight, a brief explanation of what your finding is, right? Just a bullet point, explanation, right? And that bullet point will even help you if you are presenting it live, if you are doing a live presentation to your board members, right? So it will help you, it will guide you, tell a better story, right? So you can see an illustration here on my screen, right? So this is KPIs, key performance indicators by product category, right? So this is a wine business. So you can see their performance, their KPIs across products, right? So you can see there are different wine products. We have whiskey, rums, and vodka, right? So we have 10.6 million for whiskey, and their target is what? Their target is 12.2, and their actual is what? The actual there is bold or is bolder, right? So the actual is what? The actual is 10.6 for this 5.3 and target is 6 million. So with this, you can actually, measure your performance and not just measure your performance. You can also assess your performance, assess if the business is going well or if it's going well or if it's not, right? So data analytics is beautiful. The magical aspect is when you're going to be using your technical tools to be performing this magic, right? To be analyzing your data and turning your insights to visuals, right? And arranging your visuals in a dashboard representation, right? So trust me, the advanced training or the advanced class is going to be an interesting and a transformative section that you cannot afford to meet, right? So I'm going to stop here and open the floor for questions. So if you have questions, you can feel free. I don't know if there is room for question, Mr. Prince. I believe there is room for question. So if there is question, you can drop it in the chat, call chat, or you ask it, right? So our next section will be on Saturday, right? So we are going to do some technical stuffs on Saturday when we meet. Thank you so much, and I'll be waiting for your question. Is Prince in the call? Okay. Okay, no question, no question. Emmanuel says no question. Um, okay. So I guess we are going to call it a night. Prince is supposed to be here.
Hello, Kate, are you done?
Yes, Prince, I'm done. I called your attention.
Okay, sorry.